Well, everyone, thank you for coming to our campus field walk today. We're going to be talking about our old growth trees on campus and how they impact our history as land-grant university, and also how they affect the ecology and environment of our university as well. So, first thing we are going to do today is be talking about this beautiful tulip poplar we have here. I don't quite know how old it is, but these are the reasons why I think that old growth forests are very important. They provide like the canopy that covers all of the lower plants, all the smaller ones, providing an area where they can come up, grow, and providing a diverse environment for them, for other plants as well as animals. Yeah. So, we are going to be stopping along the way to Fort Woods today at various species of old growth trees, and we will be talking about the ecosystem services that old growth can provide, the food and shelter that they are essential to create for animals. We are also talking about the history of our university and how our old growth forests have played a role in that, as well as our oh my gosh, I just blanked on the last something. We are going to be talking about the regenerative properties of what old growth has in the forest and how it helps the newer plants and more diverse plants grow. So with that, we'll begin our first, which is our ecosystem services. Are any of you familiar with what ecosystem services are and what they provide?
Yeah, work off that, make that better.
No? Okay. Well, ecosystem services are what plants can provide to the ecosystem around them. So, for example, water retention is a huge one. Trees and plants help to bring in water and carry nutrients. That water creates food for all of the diverse plants and animals that are around in that forest. So with that example, if you think of any other ways that old growth can impact the environment, how it can help.
No, you should write it. I already have your first paragraph.
Yes?
Improved evapotranspiration. Outline. It's even just to write around it. It's like a joke in there, a little dry humor.
Yes.
Even after the trees have died, there's still like microbodies that feed on that, and that's like the ground floor of the food chain.
That's exactly it. Yeah, that goes into the regeneration, which we'll be talking about later, and that's why diversity is very important in our old growth forests, because we need to have those young saplings and the old trees growing at the same time. Otherwise, it's not a balanced environment. So yeah. With that, we'll be taking you to our next stop. I'd like you to think about how the trees around us as we're walking provide for our land, and think of all the animals you see and the diversity of life, and how that is so wonderful. Thank you, guys.
At least the pedal didn't fall off like the other side. Summer's
We are
gonna
heading-
die, like one-legged. Saving costs.
So guys, this is the spot I picked. And I picked this spot because it seems to be one of the most concentrated spots of trees and other shrubs on campus, especially with old growth trees right here on the end. Now, at one point, there was none of this here. At one point back then, there were a lot of different species of raccoons, like possums, a lot of different mammals, and a lot of other different birds. Now, if you try and listen to any animals, like mammals or birds, you're not going to really hear anything. Okay? This whole area has really been urbanized, and a lot of different species actually thrive off that, like squirrels. When we were waiting down there, one jumped on my leg. So those things are completely urbanized, which means they benefit from us, maybe the food that we drop, maybe the buildings that we have. Earlier we saw a red-tailed hawk up there, and it was prowling the area for maybe possible rodents or something in the area. So a lot of different species actually benefit off that, but and a lot of others actually benefit off the old growth trees. So I carried this for about an hour just to pass it around. So not only is that a little acorn, which is sprouting a new sapling to grow, but also it has a high concentrated amount of protein. And like squirrels or chipmunks and such, they'll eat that, and that puts that straight into their fat reserve so they can actually survive the harsh winter. You guys want to follow me a little bit further? Which means there's a lot more tree cover, a lot more shelter for animals to hang out under here. And as you see these berries, and if you see other acorns laying on the ground, leave them be, because it takes over 30 years for one oak tree to sprout its first acorn. It's a very long time. Now also, if you guys want to walk around, maybe feel some of these trees or bushes, we'll walk a little bit further this way. If you guys want to feel it, feel it. So they all have that kind of roughish texture to it. That is used for harsh winds, to protect against, honestly, people like us. A lot of kids will actually try and scrape the bark, and they do that for fun, but it actually really hurts the tree. So that's their protective coating against wind, storms, anything, and it keeps these guys alive. And now we transition into our next area about the history of where these old guys came from.
Our next stop, talk a little bit about the history. On the way there, though, kind of look around for different bird species that you might see in the area. Any squirrels, any chipmunks, watch out for falling leaves. They fall down a lot. And try to imagine what campus would have looked like before it was actually campus. And we'll talk more about it at our next stop.
We were not finding birds.
I just don't think
Plastic bag.
it was also hot as hell. That was probably part of it. We were so hot.
I've been to Cobra and all around campus, we've seen all kinds of songbirds that we did not see. And I feel like failure.
We'll be fine if we go to the other side of it.
Are we going to that?
Yes.
Oh no.
We'll be fine.
We'll reiterate all the cool points. It's hard to It's super awkward. Nobody will ever see anyone outside that fence.
No, it says on the sign you're not supposed to go inside the fence.
It's true. That's why I haven't gone inside the fence. I know.
Well, it's very tempting. That one branch looks like
No.
Yes, it
sit.
It just looks amazing.
It does. It really does.
Going to really die now, but when it first started,
Beautiful old tree. No, they're filling out paper. Of some sort.
You guys look like they're supposed to be here.
Point of time in history where the person might have So, as Steve mentioned, we're going to talk a little bit about the history while we're standing right here. To do that, we're actually going to travel back in time, so go ahead and close your eyes. Imagine a time you're standing in this exact same spot, but there's a bunch of tree cover all around you. Really, really tall oak trees all over the place. What kind of things do you hear? What kind of things do you, well, see around you? You don't have to raise your hand or anything. You can shout stuff out. Leaves rustling. Acorn.
Chupacabra.
Chupacabras. Oh. So besides chupacabras, there's also some birds chirping, squirrels, chipmunks running around between your feet, maybe even jumping up on you as we saw earlier. And then travel forward a little bit in time to clear cut. There's no trees in the area anymore. It's just really long fielded area then. It became an agriculture field shortly after that. When they dropped campus right in the middle of everything, because as the last group was talking about, there's a lot of agriculture students coming in to Penn State to start their careers. You can go ahead and open your eyes. Back in 2016, this is what campus looks like now. We travel back a little bit to see what everything was like before. There are all of these really awesome buildings that are around us that we walk past, have passed them every single day. So the tree that's back there, we were going to stop closer to it, but I didn't want to take that far. So the tree that's behind us is another white oak. It's really, really old, about 200 years old. And it was actually this sidewalk that's around it was put there. It's put the way that it is kind of like an oval shape that it's in on purpose. They wanted to protect that tree, so they actually built the sidewalk so that the root systems could actually still get minerals, water underneath it. That tree actually used to be part of the Portland, which is going to be our next stop. We're going to talk about regeneration at that stop. We're going to head over to Portland.
And as we head over, I'd like you all to think of your witness street and how it could relate to some of the trees we've seen on this walk this far. And I'll ask you later when we get to our stop and how those qualities of your witness street are similar or even different to the trees that we've seen. So let's head on over to our next stop.
Sorry.
No lateral control walking. Turning my head. And I look back, I'm like, oh, I'm in the middle of the road.
they called for last year with El Nino. Here's the big house.
All right, everyone, if you'd like to circle up around here. So, welcome to the horticulture woods. How many of you have been to this small area? Quite a few of you. All right, perfect. So I asked you at our last stop if any of you could relate your witness trees to any of the trees that we've seen thus far. Would anyone like to comment on that?
Yeah, I mean, mine's big oak right next to the Ford building. So
Oh, okay.
It's like, I don't know, just big old guy that's been there for a while.
Okay, very cool. Anybody else?
My witness tree is a willow tree, which is nothing like any of the trees that we've seen at this part of campus, but I think that speaks to the diversity of foliage that we have here on campus. So.
Anyone else? Okay. All right. So, as I said, this is the Hort Woods. It's a small 4-acre lot that has been preserved. So basically what I'm going to talk about here is how old growth trees and forests promote regeneration of new and native and non-native species to this area. Back before 1855, as we mentioned, when the university was founded, this area was filled with black and white oaks, which would have been towering above the canopies, which we see here today. There's probably still quite a few in here as we know it. But in 2001, this area was deemed a protected area for nature. They wanted to preserve the area as one of the last standing natural areas on campus to prevent future development of buildings and everything else that was going on, even as the campus is expanding today. So this area should be safe for quite some time to come. So how this area is, how old growth trees affect this area is that they allow sunlight to come in through the canopy and into more open spaces to allow new growth to come up from the forest floor. With that being said, there are both native and non-native species that come up through this area. Quite some time ago, probably when this area was first protected back in 2001, foresters noticed that there was lots of invasive non-native species in this area. And that was due to the perimeter of the 4-acre area that we have here didn't have a lot of native species making a canopy above it. So a lot of invasive plants were coming along the edges of it and spreading throughout the rest of the forest floor. So once they realized that was happening and invasive species were taking over the natural species that were originally growing there, they went through, clear-cut all the invasive species out of the area to allow the native species to come back to life. So what they did after that was went around the perimeter and replanted some native plants, shrubs, bushes, whatever you see around it, and that would promote the regeneration of native species back to this 4-acre native lot that we see here today. So, and I like to think of these old trees as like the Ents in Lord of the Rings, with their old beard and how they can just kind of bring everything up into our ecosystem, how everything ties together as a so, with that, we will jump into our conclusion. Back to Darren.
Well, thank you everyone for joining us today on our walk. I hope you learned something about our history as a land-grant university and old growth forests, obviously, that we were talking about all the time. I hope you learned how what they do for our environment and gained some new appreciation for them. So we learned today that they provide ecosystem services for the land around them, helping to sustain all life in the surrounding region. They provide food and shelter for the animals around. They are integral to our history as a university. We started off as a blank slate of old growth forests here that slowly got turned into fields and then into a university. And I think it's important to recognize that's where we come from. And then finally, we learned about how old growth helps the regeneration of the forest around it, not just for its own species, but for other species as well, which, as we talked about the diversity, is very important, and the old growth allows it to continue growing and to keep the landscape healthy. So, thank you.
Thank you. It's 22:30. All right.